more people than heights, death, or financial problems? You're right, it's public speaking. And today's guest is a seminar leader and a consultant who specializes on giving tips on speaking with confidence, motivating people, and how to provide better presentation skills. I'm sure we can all benefit from some of these areas. We'll also discover what it takes to be a successful seminar leader, so stay tuned for Careers. I'm Peter Wolfl, and this is Careers. Our guest today, Vince DaCosta, is a trained speaker, and he regularly addresses conferences and conventions across North America. He has coached some of the top executives in Canadian business, and his company, Vince DaCosta and Associates, specializes in the design and delivery of management training programs. Vince, welcome to Careers.
Hi.
Can you tell us a bit about your background before you ever decided on specializing on public speaking as a career?
Well, let's go back to when I came to Canada first, and that goes back about 28 years ago. One of the first jobs I had was as office manager with an organization, an international organization. It was a relatively small organization, and I had to do everything. In other words, inside sales, outside sales, accounting. Sometimes I even shipped goods too.
Right.
But it was a wonderful learning experience. Then I moved from there after about 12 years, and I became branch manager of another organization in the leasing of heavy equipment. And I enjoyed that. We had branches right across the country, and that was another learning experience. I had about 8 years there. So if you add those two together, you'll see that I spent 20 years in two companies. And then the last 8 years has been spent in public speaking and in seminars. So that about, in summary, puts it together.
But it really was a major switch in your life to get into public speaking, was it not? What prompted you, what motivated you to change your career?
Well, it really wasn't a major switch in a way, Peter, because what happened was that while I was in those companies during that 20 years, I became involved with an organization which led me into this. And perhaps we can talk a little about that organization later on in our show, and that organization is Toastmasters International.
Okay.
And what happened was that I became very involved with speaking in that, and then it just sort of led into what I did afterwards.
You became hooked.
That's right. Exactly.
Okay. Tell us a bit about your company, Vince DaCosta and Associates.
Well, Vince DaCosta and Associates was formed about, it became incorporated about 4 or 5 years ago, but actually I was in business long before that. And my accountant advised
As a sole
me,
proprietor.
yeah, that I should be incorporated. So we started a company, Vince DaCosta and Associates Incorporated. But actually, I was very active in the field of training and management development programs even before that.
I see. Now, you have developed a number of courses. What makes your courses different from the rest? I'm sure there's a lot of courses out there who talk about public speaking and speaking with confidence.
I know.
What makes
I know.
yours different?
Well, what makes it different is Vince DaCosta. because you see, seminar leaders are all different. And although the content might be the same, the seminar leader makes it different. And my programs have a special flavor about them because I do them. And in the same way that if you were doing a program, you would add your unique personality to it. There's something special, some things very special about the way that I do programs, in that I do a lot of participation. I get a lot of involvement with the participants. And I think that makes it very special because people enjoy that. And maybe we'll get a chance to talk about why they enjoy it so much and why it's so powerful to get that participation.
Well, let's briefly review some of the courses that you teach. The first one is called Speaking with Confidence.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
What do you suggest to people to help control their nervousness?
Well, long do you want me to talk for? About 1 hour? Because I could spend an hour on that. Actually, that is the question that is asked most often in presentation skills programs, or Speak with Confidence, as we call it at times. And there are about 5 or 6 suggestions that I give people about how to control that nervousness. Maybe I could just run through 2 or 3 of them. One of the first things that I suggest to people is that nervousness really could be a blessing in disguise. And the reason I say that is that most of the performers, actors, people in the public eye that speak, if they don't have a certain amount of nervousness, they might find that they lose that edge. I relate it quite often to an athlete.
Right.
And we have pictures of athletes here and so on. And if you asked any of these athletes, any of these people that are in the public eye, before they go on stage, if there isn't a certain amount of nervousness there, and they probably will admit, yes, there is a little nervousness there, and that nervousness helps them to just perform at a little higher level. And that's why I say that nervousness might be a blessing in disguise.
You turn it around and you make it an advantage.
Exactly. It's a shot of adrenaline that people get, and just raises your performance to a higher level.
And I imagine it adds a lot of excitement to the speech and
Well,
emotion.
it does. It does. It adds a lot of vitality, animation, and so on.
Okay.
Another thing about nervousness is that people, because they feel so nervous, they usually think that all this nervousness expresses itself on the outside. And if they only knew, and of course it's my job to convince them, that that nervousness does not show. The average person, although he or she may feel very nervous inside, that nervousness does not show on the outside. And if people really understand that, then their level of confidence will be raised too, because what people are afraid of more than anything else is that this nervousness, everybody's aware of their nervousness. But take it from me, that nervousness does not show, except in exceptional cases, and there are a few cases.
What I have always found personally is just to rehearse. If you're well prepared, then you're going to feel more confident before you actually do some kind of speaking.
Well, that brings another skill to, or another technique for controlling nervousness, and that is preparation. Peter, if you stand before an audience and your dialogue with yourself is, I didn't have enough time, I couldn't make it, I just didn't spend time rehearsing that presentation, you're going to feel nervous, because you know inside that you're not prepared. Now turn that around. If you stand before an audience and your dialogue with yourself is, hey, I'm so glad I took the time to prepare. I'm glad I rehearsed this in a tape recorder, watched myself on video, all the things that we do to prepare.
Right.
You're going to have a higher level of confidence right away.
Then it's a breeze.
It's a breeze. Well, maybe not entirely, but you know, it makes it a lot easier. It just makes it a lot easier.
Are there any secrets to making a good delivery?
I don't know if you'd call them secrets, because, you know, there are any of the books that you might read. If you listen to any seminar leaders, they'll tell you what it is. I like to quote Dr. Kenneth McFarland, who is a very, very well-known speaker and has been awarded many of the top awards in presentation skills and public speaking. And one of the things that Dr. Kenneth McFarland says is the most important quality in public speaking, and that is vitality. And by vitality, I mean enthusiasm, animation, energy. That's what another very important person said, energy. And if you're not expressing energy, if you're not expressing enthusiasm and interest in what you're talking about, your presentation is going to go flat. People are going to fall asleep. So there has to be a certain level of energy being expressed.
Do you find that it's important to somehow try to convey some kind of a sense of emotion into your speech?
No question, no question. Of course, like anything else, you can overdo it.
Yeah.
But one of the things I talk about, for instance, is voice variation. And voice variation has 4 aspects to it. You vary your voice in the area of pitch, of pace, of power, and of passion, which of course is emotion.
Right.
So in your speaking, you want to express a certain amount of emotion, a certain passion about what you feel.
Okay.
At the same time, If you express too much, then you'll weary people. You know, it gets a little like, you know, some of the movies where they just make you cry through the whole picture. I mean, it's just too much.
Right.
So you have to know how to vary it and sort of, you know, put little areas of passion in there to hold people's attention.
I imagine if it was too extreme, it would become corny.
It would too.
In
It
effect.
would too. It can
Okay.
be superficial if you're not careful. Let me say something else about speaking. If you're not expressing yourself from the inside out, if you're not being sincere about what you're talking about, then the audience is going to detect that this is all superficial, it's just surface techniques that you're using. True speaking really comes as a result of what you feel. It's from the inside out. And if you don't feel strongly about it, if you're not enthusiastic about it, then you're not going to, on a consistent basis, be able to be believable. You're not
Right.
going to be believable.
Right. Okay, Vince, let's briefly review your second course, which is motivating people.
Oh, yes.
What are some of your strategies for doing that?
Well, here's a subject that I enjoy talking about again. Motivation,
First of all, before we even go into that,
yes.
why is motivation important?
Well, because there's so little of it around.
That's right. I guess it's so
You
easy
know-
for one of your employees to just slack off and not feel like they want to come to work anymore when you have a company of some kind.
Peter, let me tell you how important motivation is. In a survey taken just recently, over the past year or two, the survey showed that 75% of the workforce in North America, United States and Canada, are working at less than 75% of their potential. Okay?
Mhm.
And 50% of the 50% of the workforce are working to rule. And what I mean by that is they're doing only enough to get the paycheck at the end of the week. That's
Right.
all.
It's just a job.
They're just putting in time
Yeah.
just to get that paycheck. And what that represents is a tremendous amount of frustration, unhappiness, and mediocrity, because when we're not putting our best into what we're doing, then we're unhappy about it. Okay, so that's how
For sure.
important motivation is. We need motivation to be able to start to put our 100% into what we're doing.
Okay, now how do you turn that around?
You turn it around by developing a positive climate. You see, people are just like a seed. You take an orange seed or a grapefruit seed or any kind of seed, and you put it into let's say you put it on this table. Now, what will happen to that seed? Wither up, die after a while.
Mhm.
But take that same seed, Peter, and put it in a pot of earth, water it, fertilize it, talk to it. You're supposed to do that, you know. And what happens is that it grows, it gets leaves, it gets branches, it gets flowers. It's productive.
Okay.
Now, people are just like that. If you put them into a negative climate, they'll turn off, they'll grumble, they'll swear at you, they'll strike, and they'll sabotage your equipment, and they'll do a lot of other nasty things too. Take those same people and put them into a positive climate, the right kind of environment, and you'll find that those people will laugh, they'll have fun, they'll be part of the team, and they'll be productive. And the big question is, how do you develop that positive climate? You see, and that's what I talk about.
And how do you build that positive climate?
Well, you build it by putting certain ingredients into it. And, you know, I could tell you 15, 16, 20 ingredients, but I'm going to tell you about 3. Number 1, trust. People have to trust each other.
Mhm.
And building trust into an environment makes it very positive. Positive reinforcement. We've always heard about the power of praise, and we have to do that. And listening. Good old listening is very, very powerful. And those are 3 important ingredients that help to build a more positive climate, which just helps people feel better about themselves.
In your course, you also talk about Iacocca's formula.
Oh, yes.
What was his secret?
Well, the Iacocca secret, or the Iacocca formula, is very simple, and that's one of the reasons why I love Iacocca, because he puts things in such a simple framework.
Okay, in a nutshell.
Iacocca says every quarter, every 3 months, he asks all his key people to to decide on what they are going to be doing over the next 3 months, or set goals for the next 3 months. And then after they've set their goals, develop a strategy for getting there. And that is the Iacocca formula. And it is very, very powerful.
Okay. We have to take a short break right now, Vince. When we return, we'll be back with Vince DaCosta talking about his third course, Executive Speaking Skills, and we'll also talk about some other areas about public speaking. Stay tuned for Careers. We're back on Careers with Vince DaCosta, a seminar leader. Vince, your third course, called Executive Speaking Skills, seems to be an extension of the first one, Speaking with Confidence. One of the things that interested me about it was the question on how can speakers let go of their notes?
Okay, to answer the first part of your question, yes, it is an extension, except that it is much more in-depth, because Executive Speaking Skills is a video feedback program. And what we do is video the participants, and then we together evaluate that, and it's very, very powerful. How do you let go of your notes? A very simple word, visualizing. Because if you can visualize your speech, if you can get pictures in your mind of what you want to talk about, then you really don't need notes. That's oversimplifying it, I know. But really, that's what it's all about. And what I do is get into certain exercises that help people to vividly imagine in their mind the pictures that they're talking about, or the ideas or concepts that they're talking about. And then as they vividly imagine that, it's very easy to express that without notes.
Your courses seem to be very interesting, at least for me, from what you've told me.
Mm-hmm.
But no matter how good a product somebody has, you're not going to survive unless somebody else wants it or knows about it.
That's right.
How do you go about marketing yourself?
Well, that's a whole story again, Peter. And what happens there is that I don't like marketing. And so what I have done, rather than, as some of my colleagues have done, gone out and knocked on doors and marketed myself as a good seminar leader, I've gone to the colleges. I've gone to colleges like Seneca, Durham College, Sir Sanford Fleming in Peterborough, Georgian College up in Barrie, and told them about these programs. And what they do is they promote these in their calendars. Mm-hmm. All of these colleges have business centers, seminar centers. And so they put out a calendar sometimes twice a year, sometimes 3 times a year. And they promote my seminars. And so they call on me as soon as they have enough registration for these programs.
Well, that's good. That takes a burden off your shoulders,
well,
I imagine. They do the marketing for you, in effect.
That's right. That's
okay.
right.
But I noticed that you've also been at some trade shows as well.
Yes, of course, as a result of all that activity and as a result of getting a lot of free advertising and calendars and so on, then people contact me. Mm-hmm. And of course I get called to conventions, I get called for keynote presentations at times, and I don't object to that at all.
Okay, have you considered putting your courses on tape?
Well, as a matter of fact, I do have some tapes. I have my executive speaking skills on tape, and I have my motivation program on tape, and I promote these tapes at different seminars that I do.
Okay, good.
And at different times, too, I promote them in different occasions.
Mm-hmm. Vince, what do you feel are your personal strengths and weaknesses? I know this is a tough question, but...
Well, let's deal with the strengths first. Comments that I get, particularly on evaluations that come back in seminars, is the enthusiasm that I have for what I'm doing. And really, I consider that a strength, because I absolutely love what I'm doing.
Great.
And I would do it even if I didn't get paid for it. Of course, who's going to pay the mortgage and who's going to look after the children?
You probably wouldn't do it for too long, though.
Right, right. But they tell me I'm a very enthusiastic person about what I'm doing, and I consider that a strength because people comment on that. Mm-hmm. Weakness, that's a tough one. Maybe what some of my colleagues blame me for. They say I don't charge enough for my seminars. I'm too low priced. That's what they tell me. And I should charge more money. And
which
really,
makes them look bad, right?
That's what they say.
Vince, you told us before about how much you enjoy public speaking, to the extent that you might even do it for free. Mm-hmm. But seriously, how much money is there involved in this line of work?
Peter, let me tell you how much money there is in this line of work. You've heard about Tom Peters. the famous author of In Search of Excellence.
Yes.
Tom Peters earns $24,000 per half day. And just recently we heard about Ronald Reagan, who's going to be paid $50,000 for a half an hour speech. Now, I'm the first one to admit that not everyone is going to earn that kind of money. But most of the good speakers today are earning far in excess of $100,000 a year. You can be safe on that. It is a very, very remunerative field if you can do it well.
I imagine the money goes up the more well-known you become.
Very definitely. It's just like sports or anything of that nature. A Wayne Gretzky, a Zig Ziglar, a Norman Vincent Peale, we have the names in the public speaking field just like there is in hockey or football or any other field.
Okay. So how does somebody get started in this line of work?
Well, if you want a one-word answer, it's Toastmasters. Toastmasters is a wonderful organization, and that's what started me in this field.
What is Toastmasters?
Well, Toastmasters is a non-profit educational organization which helps people with their communication skills. And the theme of Toastmasters is better thinking, better listening, better speaking. And what we do in Toastmasters is to bring people in, and it's a participatory thing. There are no seminar leaders or professors or anything of that nature. We just all participate, and to simplify it, we just speak.
It's like group therapy.
It's to a certain extent, it's like that. But one very important thing, we have a lot of fun there, and people are helped in that atmosphere to overcome this fear of public speaking that we talk about.
Does everybody sort of take turns speaking?
They do, yes.
And you evaluate each other?
And we evaluate each other.
Great. And how much does that cost?
The cost is a giveaway, and I'm serious about that. It will actually cost you about $50, and that's Canadian dollars, per year to become a member of Toastmasters, and that allows you to come to all the meetings, and most of the meetings are once every week, or most of the clubs, I should say, are once every week. So we're talking about 45 to 50 meetings per year, and you can participate and get the benefit of all the experience that is in the club.
It's almost $1 a week.
That's right. That's right. It's a giveaway.
Yeah. And do you get some kind of training at these meetings as well?
No question. That's what it's all about. Although we call ourselves a club, we're very serious about the educational aspect of our activities. And there are people, and I am one of them, who would say that Toastmasters has changed their lives. It certainly changed mine, because it brought me into this career that I enjoy so much today.
I understand that you even went a step further and you founded a new club.
Well, that's right. I founded the Markham Toastmasters Club, and actually I founded a number of other clubs, Peter. But that one is the one I'm most proud of, because I remain a member of that, and they've made me a life member now.
Are you still active?
Very active. I was there this week.
I understand that one of the things that really bounced off your career was a speech that you gave at a Canada Day speech contest.
That's right, yeah. That was a few years ago.
Tell us a bit about that.
Well, the federal government and Toastmasters got together, and we started a Canada Day speech contest. And that was supposed to be a speech that would just praise the benefits of Canada. And I was very excited about it. I entered in the first Canada Day speech contest. And I won at many different levels, finally won at the Ontario level, the provincial level, and then we had a national contest which was judged by video. And I was the runner-up, the first runner-up in that contest. But I won the Ontario contest, and then I went on to become the runner-up in the national contest.
Wow, that's really close. And I believe we have a clip from that speech contest. Let's take a look at that right now.
I can never forget the magic of that moment. Let me tell you about Newfoundland. Some years ago, my wife and I drove out across Quebec. We traveled down through beautiful New Brunswick. We traveled across Nova Scotia, and we came to North Sydney. And then we took the boat at North Sydney, and we traveled overnight. And next morning, we landed in Port aux Basques. I'll never forget the morning we landed in Port aux Basques. It was a cold, dull, gray morning. The clouds were dark and threatening. And I remember as we drove out along the highway, everything seemed so barren and so austere. And I said to my wife, that's why they call it the Rock. But the coldness only lasted until we got to Corner Brook. And then the warmth and the friendliness of those wonderful people in Newfoundland won our hearts. Last year we went to Alberta. We drove up into the Rocky Mountains and we stopped at Banff. I can't tell you about the Rockies. You've got to see them for yourself. You've got to see that rugged terrain. You've got to see those towering mountains. You've got to see those magnificent peaks. They took my breath away. Those are some of the wonderful things that make Canada so special to me. The power of Niagara, the beauty of a fall in Ontario, the cold winds but warm hearts of the people of Newfoundland, and the wonderful, magnificent mountains of Alberta. But there's so much more. The fertile beauty of British Columbia, the vast prairies of Manitoba and Saskatchewan, the special culture of Quebec, and the rich red earth of Prince Edward Island. All these things come together.
Vince, I noticed that you really did have to use a lot of tools in making that speech, such as body language, vocal variety, and the emotion that you were talking about before. Now, the club, is this a worldwide organization?
Toastmasters International is a worldwide organization represented in 40 countries. And here's an exciting thing. We just formed our first club in Russia, first club in Moscow.
Great.
I have had the opportunity of serving on the board. I was an international director for 2 years, and that made me make trips down to Santa Ana, California, where the headquarters are.
What did you have to do as a director?
Well, we discussed and formulated policy for the worldwide organization.
Okay.
It was very exciting.
Super. Well, Vince, I'm sorry we're out of time, but before we go, if somebody wants more information about either your company or Toastmasters, who do they contact?
Well, contact me, Vince DaCosta, at 477-4302.
Okay, we're all out of time. I'm Peter Wolfl, and from all of us here at the studio, good luck in your own career.